Here we are, 31 games into the 2024-2025 NBA season for the Detroit Pistons, and I think it's abundantly clear that this is not the same Detroit Pistons from last season, and they are significantly better. And one thing I look at with the Detroit Pistons this season that really stands out to me when I look at their schedule to begin this season, and I know, watching the NFL and the NBA over the years and watching all of these shows, they always have that tool or that graph that shows the teams that have like the toughest schedule to end the season or the toughest schedule to begin the season. I haven't seen any of those graphics yet this season, but I'm almost 1,000% sure that the Detroit Pistons, they've had one of the harder schedules to begin this NBA season. Looking at them through these 31 games, they've played so many teams, so many playoff teams, some of the best players in all of the NBA, and I think they've been doing a great job of holding their own, because we look at the Detroit Pistons through these first 31 games, they have a record of 14-17, and they're sitting at 9th place in the Eastern Conference with a chance not only to make the play-in tournament, but with the way the standings are looking in the Eastern Conference right now, in the direction that the Detroit Pistons are trending in, they could potentially get into the playoffs. And I'm very confident in saying that the Detroit Pistons could get into the playoffs in the Eastern Conference when I look at the way that some of the players are performing on this team, when I look at the direction that some of the players are individually trending in on this team. I think the Detroit Pistons, with the quality of wins they've been getting so far this season, the confidence inside of these guys are really starting to bubble. But we're going to touch on those players in just a little bit. I want to stick on the overall team success of the Detroit Pistons so far this season. Last video we talked about the Detroit Pistons, how great they've been in their last 4 games, and now we get to extend it to their last 5 games, and I think it makes what they've been doing even more impressive. Now we look at the Detroit Pistons, they've won 4 out of their last 5 games, and I believe all 4 of these wins were high quality wins, and I believe the one L that they received was a quality L as well, because the Detroit Pistons, they're in a position where they can learn and take away from every single loss that they have. But we look at where it started at for this 5-game stretch for the Detroit Pistons. The first 2 games at home, the first one against the Miami Heat, where they had a very thrilling overtime win. And one thing I've been saying all season long that's been so refreshing to see from the Detroit Pistons, when opposing superstars, when they have these mega games, when they have these crazy games, can the Detroit Pistons withstand those performances? And they've been doing that all season long, and a part of that is because we now have a player that can match those superstar-like performances in Cade Cunningham. So when we see Jimmy Butler, he scores 30 plus points and he's getting 15 plus rebounds. I still can't remember if he finished with a triple-double or not in that game, but I know he had at least 9 assists, and we're able to come out on top of those games. Same thing earlier in the year against the Miami Heat, Tyler Hero. He starts to go crazy at the end of the game and send it to overtime. But the Detroit Pistons, they were able to withstand that. And the game after that, the Utah Jazz. Now, a lot of people would try to shame the Detroit Pistons for that loss, but a lot of people don't know that the Utah Jazz, that this is a team, they've been struggling big time on the season, but they were not 100% healthy. They're starting to get their guys back in the lineup. Walker Kessler, John Collins, Lauri Markkanen, and Colin Sexton. Those are a lot of talented guys in a starting 5. So I like that loss for the Detroit Pistons, because I feel like it's important for these guys to be able to lose games where you feel like you should win these games, and it doesn't end up happening. But can you stay locked into in a high enough mental state to be able to go along and start up another win streak? And that's exactly what we've seen the Detroit Pistons do after losing to the Utah Jazz. They started a West Coast road trip. Now they faced the Phoenix Suns on the road. No Devin Booker, but they did have Kevin Durant, and this is a team with championship aspirations. I'm pretty sure they 1,000% believe that they were going to beat the Detroit Pistons, and that's what they expected. And they go into there and upset them on the road. Then they travel to LA to face LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers. And once again, LeBron James, he has a big time performance. But the Detroit Pistons, they were able to withstand that, win the game, keep the lead down the stretch. And then we get to their most recent win. And their most recent win, I think it goes down as the most impressive win on the season when we look at all the circumstances around this game. Now the Sacramento Kings, they didn't get into the playoffs last year, but they did get into the play-in tournament, but they were at least 7 games above 500. That's how good the Western Conference was last year, and they did get into the playoffs the year before. The year before, and this is an ultra talented team. In these last 2 years, they didn't even have DeMar DeRozan. Now they have DeMar DeRozan in the fold. So this is a team super talented. They've done seen success over the last 2 years, and they've been struggling mightily. They were on a 4-game losing streak before facing the Detroit Pistons. They've been on a really long homestand, if I'm not mistaken, home against the Detroit Pistons. So they were really, really hungry to win this. Game. And we look at the odds before the game started. The Detroit Pistons, they were 5-point underdogs, even with no Domantas Sabonis. And for a second, it looked like they deserved to be underdogs because they kind of let the game slip away from them. I think they went down. The biggest lead the Sacramento Kings got was 19 points, but the Detroit Pistons, man, they were able to come back, and it was a very, very beautiful thing to watch. And what I loved about this comeback for the Detroit Pistons is that we saw so many different guys chipping in to bring that lead back down to striking distance. And we saw Cade Cunningham, big time performance. Jaden Ivey, game winner, shout out to him, big time performance. Not only a game winner, but an and 1-3 for the game winner. Malik Beasley, outstanding. He's been crazy this whole month of December. And then also shout out to Jalen Duren. And I love Jalen Duren. Whenever Jalen Duren is locked in and engaged and he's active on the offensive and the defensive side of the ball, it's a completely different offense and a completely different defense for the Detroit Pistons. And I know a couple of games ago, I read a few different things questioning the effort levels of Jalen Duren. And since I've seen all those articles come out, it seems like he has been getting back. He's starting to get back a little consistent as far as his rebounding and scoring production goes. So whenever Jalen Duren is locked in and engaged, he's a really good basketball player. And we got to remember, he's still super young. When he came into the league, he was the youngest player in the NBA. So those type of growing pains are still going to be there. But I thought this win right here was easily the most impressive win for the Detroit Pistons, because we talked about all the different ways that a young team, they have to learn how to win. They have to get experience like this under their belt. And we talked about this. We talk about the Detroit Pistons. They have to win a game where they're up big time and the team starts to make a run and they gotta hold on to the lead. We've seen them have those type of wins this season. Or when the Detroit Pistons, when they have a lead and they let it slip away, can they go back, reclaim the league, and win the basketball game? We seen them win in that fashion this year. And then finally, we saw the Detroit Pistons, they fall down big time. 19 points against the Sacramento Kings at home on a 4-game losing streak. It sounded like they had another sold-out crowd, very loud in there. So for the Detroit Pistons to go and to be able to come back from a big lead or a big deficit in that environment, I'm blown away, to be honest. So I think the Detroit Pistons, man, to see them playing like this at this point in the season, I'm at a loss for words. But they've been looking really good collectively, and I think as a group, as a team, I think they've made big time strides. And some of the players on the Detroit Pistons that's just been so impactful this month, this entire season. It's been so fun to watch. Shout out to Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey. I know a lot of people, even to this day, to this season, a lot of people still have a lot of questions about this backcourt. But if you look at the Detroit Pistons so far this season, this is the best start they've gotten off to since they had both Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey. And I think something a lot of people got to take into account is that both of these guys are healthy, and that's not something we've seen. Jaden Ivey, his first couple of years in the NBA, he didn't really have Cade Cunningham by his side. So I know the uncertainty is there with these two, but I know definitely it's not time to close the book on these two guys, especially we look at the type of season that they've been having. Both of these guys are having career highs across the board. I believe Cade Cunningham is having a career highs in every single category when we talk about points, rebounds, assists, and then also his shooting splits. The only one I'm really unsure about is his free throw percentage, but in every other category, he's having career highs. He's averaging 24, 7, 24, 7 boards, and 9 assists. He's shooting 48% from the field and 37% from the three-point line. So a crazy year. I'm hearing question marks about the All-Star game. I think Cade Cunningham is the best point guard in the Eastern Conference. I don't think there's many point guards out east that I would take over him. I'm thinking Cade Cunningham is a lock for an All-Star, and the real question mark should be in the All-NBA category. And then Jaden Ivey, same thing. He's having career highs in his points per game, averaging around 17 points per game, and he has been lighting it up from the three-point line this season. He's shooting 38+% from the three-point line. That's big time for Jaden Ivey. He hit three threes against the Sacramento Kings last night, plus the 3 to end the game, and then he knocked down the clutch free throw. So big time. It's been a big time season for Jaden Ivey as well, and the reason these guys have been able to succeed at these new levels that we haven't seen over the last couple of years is because of their new teammates. Their new teammates have been so big time this season. Paul Reed has been big time this season in the minimum action that he's been out, but I think he's been very impactful in those minimum minutes. And then also we look at the 2 shooters, or the 3 shooters that were brought in. Tobias Harris, he hasn't been lighting it up recently, but the impact is still there from his ability to knock down the jump shot, and then his ability to also score the basketball. And then also we look at Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley. I don't know what else I can say to those 2 guys besides thank you, because they've really been a huge blessing. Malik Beasley, he was big time. He was big time in that fourth quarter against the Sacramento Kings last night. Knocked down 3 threes that quickly evaporated the league and put the Detroit Pistons in striking distance. And then he also showed why it's important to have veteran presence on the basketball court. He obviously had the hot hand down the stretch of the basketball game, and he could have took a really bad shot. He could have took a really bad shot, but he passed it to Jaden Ivey, who caught De'Aaron Fox ball watching. And De'Aaron Fox, you could see it. He kind of knew he got caught ball watching. He had kind of like a very worried reaction to trying to get back to Jaden Ivey. Jaden Ivey goes up, he gets him to the foul, and then luckily for us, the shot went in as well, and then he iced the free throw. So the Detroit Pistons, they've been extremely impressive so far to start the season. Like I said, they're 3 games under 500, but I think they've had a really tough schedule to start this year. So I'm really impressed with where this team is at, and that's what I wanted to talk about with you guys today. These are not the same Detroit Pistons. They're significantly better. And if you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment down below. How do you feel about the Detroit Pistons? And then subscribe for more weekly content. We do this all the time, man. And that's curtains.